Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. Today we're going to be doing a featured product video for e-Raptor. This is a company that designs not only just dice towers that you're seeing here in front of you, but they design inserts and a whole number of other accessories for board games. So the majority of us that like to bling and just add extra theme and extra accessories into our game to just take our games to the next level, these guys do a fantastic job. So first off, what I want to let you know is that this, as with all of my videos that I've ever released, is not a paid preview in any way. But this particular product, or these different dice towers, were sent to me by the company, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do this because this is for an upcoming Kickstarter. So these four products I had to put together myself. And actually, they look convoluted, actually. They look like there's a lot going on, especially the steampunk furnace in the back here. But I can tell you from experience, when you see the instructions, everything clicks seamlessly. And the actual setup of these things, I didn't have a single issue across all four of them. I think maybe once with the Swamp Raptor, I might have put the wrong tile into the wrong spot. But it was fairly obvious I was messing it up. And after a correction and looking at the instructions, I was able to make that work. So what is this all about in the first place? Well, the reason I'm featuring a dice tower on the channel is because, first off, it's kind of ironic, but I've never used one. I've never used a dice tower that I can recollect in any of my videos here on Rolling Solo, and I personally never used them off camera as well. And you might be saying, well, then why are you doing a featured product video for dice towers? Well, it's mainly because this past Gen Con, I went to Gen Con, and when I was there, I saw all these companies coming out with these insanely cool thematic dice towers. And I was going, this is something that I've not seen before. And of course, it's not like this year was the first year it's been done. But this year, things just elevated to another level, at least in my books anyway, from the visual perspective of things. And I look at these dice towers now and I go, this could add a lot of theme and a lot of bling, I guess, to a particular game that you truly love. If you were playing a game like Imperial Assault where you're chucking dice all the time, the Galaxy Portal could be a perfect addition and would really fit into the Star Wars universe. Could also work for a number of different Star Wars games or just any other space game you could possibly think of that involves dice, of course. This one here is the Steampunk Furnace. And this one I could see tying into things like Shadows of Brimstone. It could tie into Fallout. It could tie into a number of different post-apocalyptic or maybe steampunk kind of vibes that would definitely fit in. Of course, dragons are going to work across the board with majority of fantasy games. And the Swamp Raptor is probably the most unique, but this Swamp Raptor I could see working really well with Shadows of Brimstone because there is a swamp environment and stuff like that that would pair up perfectly with something like that. And it's a really cool and unique one, and I'll show you why when we actually go through them one at a time. So I'm going to take you through each one. We're going to focus on each one. I'm going to spin it around for you so you can see all angles of it. I'm not going to be able to show you how I built it because I built this obviously off camera, but I will be able to show you how the dice roll and how it actually works because all these have a unique way of rolling, whether it's just dumping the dice into the top or using levers and gears to actually have the dice fall down. So again, it's a really, really cool design, and the reason I'm excited for it was because I saw that these guys are going back to Kickstarter for these new dice towers, and they are a massive step up from their previous editions. So they had other dice towers, and they still do, those previous ones, but these are their newest additions to those lines, and I think they're really cool. So there's going to be times now where I'm going to be tempted to potentially start building and bringing some of these dice towers into my playthroughs when they make sense to do so, and hoping that I can show you some of these to see whether or not, if you have a favorite game out there and you really want to spice it up or just have a controlled way of rolling your dice, because they're not just for good looks, they're also very, very practical in the sense that they'll keep your dice on the table without having a fancy board game table. So a lot of people have board game tables with the high edges, or they sit very deep so that when you're rolling the dice don't go off the table. It's fantastic when you can just roll dice into a tray here and guarantee these dice are not going to come flying out, unless of course you full-on throw them like you're throwing a fastball straight down the chute, then they might go flying across the room. But in most cases, dropping them down, I've never seen any of them come out of these things where I haven't wanted them. So that's fantastic. And usually I've had games actually even of Arcadia Quest where it's a huge dice chucker, and the dice more often than not end up on the floor. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move into a focused look at each of the four. So let's start it off with the Swamp Raptor. So the first dice tower up to take a look at is going to be the Swamp Raptor, as I mentioned. This one has some really, really unique stuff going on with it that I haven't seen in any other dice tower that I've seen, at least at Gen Con and just through other conventions locally. Again, as I mentioned before, I don't personally use dice towers that much, so my knowledge is not thorough and extensive. I don't have a gigantic library of dice towers to draw upon, but I can tell you right now the uniqueness of this one really stuck out to me, and it's really kind of cool, and also kind of has a unique charm and is slightly funny to it as well. First off, it has a bow tie, so that's fairly hard to miss. A Swamp Raptor with a bow tie, it doesn't take, or he doesn't take, or maybe it's a she. Either way, this individual doesn't take itself seriously. So first off, you can take this thing and you can flip this on all sides. You can actually see everything in terms of its design. So it's got a couple tiers here where the dice will fall down across 3 different levels until they fall out the back side of the Swamp Raptor. Now, how is this supposed to work exactly? So basically, what you have here is you have a moving jaw, and the ironic thing about this moving jaw is this is going to allow you to just kind of have a little bit of fun with this guy, as you can basically feed him dice, close his mouth, and have him spit out the dice on the backside. It's hilarious. So again, it's not to be taken very, very seriously, at least this one anyway. So this one was probably the most interesting of the 4 that I received, and so I'm going to show you what that actually looks like. Alright, so first off, we're going to have to wake this Swamp Raptor up so that he can actually take the dice. So we're going to go ahead, open his jaw up. This is the definition of force feeding, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop some dice into his mouth, and they're going to come down through the back of the dice tower and out the other side. So simple as that. You can quickly turn it around to see your results, see whether you passed or succeeded. But it's a very, very unique dice tower for sure. So this is going to be one that's going to appease to people that, I don't know, this could actually be used really as kind of a humorous dice tower more so than a serious one of the ones that I received anyway. But I did like it for its uniqueness and the fact that its eyes open up the second his jaw opens up and he goes back to sleep when he's kind of on your shelf. It's kind of interesting. It definitely draws your eye, and it's a very unique dice tower. So let's move on to the next one. Here we have the Red Dragon. This one is by far the most serious of all of them. It takes itself very seriously. There's no joking. There's no bow tie. There's no eyes opening. This thing looks furious. It also has a very, very nice color scheme to it that really does pop. The camera honestly doesn't give it the justice it deserves. It is very, very red in person, and it kind of loses a little bit of that because of the shimmer, but it's a fantastic looking dice tower. And this is one that I could see being used in a number of different board games that are fantasy based. You can see here the e-Raptor logo is right on the very front. There's a really long chute for the dice to come out of, so they're absolutely going to come out the front without any issue. Alright, so we're going to take some of these dice and we're going to fire them down the chute and see what happens here. Just like that. This one actually has a really cool sound to it too, and it hits all the different levels. But this one I find to be one of the better ones for actually getting your dice out in the open, and also for retrieving them more easily. There's a lot more clearance at the front of this dice tower, which makes it easier for individuals with larger hands to get the dice out. I found with the Swamp Raptor that it actually was a little bit tight for me, and I had a hard time getting the majority of the dice out. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do things like grabbing a clump of 4 of them and removing them from the tray and, you know, going about things. But I guess typically how you'd use a dice tower is you'd resolve all the dice in there as they lay. You wouldn't just pull them out. And then, of course, once you're done, you're just going to grab them all as you can with your hands and bring them all out. But this is a very, very cool dice tower. So this is one of the ones that I would definitely, probably out of the group, one of the ones that I would recommend, but there's actually a couple that I'm going to recommend. But this one is by far the best in terms of hitting the most board games possible, just due to its theme. It's a dragon. It can work in a number of board game settings, as a dragon is a very, very popular creature in the fantasy world. Next up is the Galaxy Portal Dice Tower. These are basically being revealed to you from my least favorite to my most favorite. And this is mainly just because I have 4 of them, so I'm revealing them as I enjoyed them the most for their uniqueness and their look as well. So this one's really cool because, first off, the actual spot to drop the dice in is really thematic. You're literally dumping your dice into a galaxy as it comes out and will drop into this lower section of the tray down here, which is just really cool. It doesn't go straight down. There's actually 2 or 3 platforms that it will hit on its way down, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to do that right now on camera so you can actually see that in action. This was just one I know I'm going to use in games like Imperial Assault. I would definitely put this on the table and have people use this for rolling. It would fit it absolutely phenomenal. But there's a number of other Star Wars games that have dice, or games that are not just Star Wars, that I could see myself using this one with. So if you're looking for something with a space theme, it has dice, maybe even the upcoming Starcadia quest, stuff like that, totally could use a dice tower like this. So we're going to take some dice, fire them down. And again, this one sounds really, really good. I love the way it sounds. I don't know what it is about that sound, but it sounds amazing. It's loud and it's awesome. So let me just do that again so you guys can hear it. It's fantastic. Plus it has the nice trap here. This again has a really nice setup where all of the dice will end up at the very front. It kind of has that force field or that beam of energy, which is basically keeping the dice in. It's thematic. It looks really cool. What I'm going to do now is take the dice out and I'll show you a side profile of this thing so you can get a more or a better idea as to how it actually looks from the side. So here's a view of the top of the Galaxy Portal. This is kind of going inside of it. You can see there's the one panel. The other panel behind it drops down into the other major area. There's these beams of energy, which basically make up the entire back section. And these platforms are on angles, which is pretty cool. So again, it just has a really nice presence because the light blue just really, really radiates. It looks really cool. And I could see it fitting a ton of space theme very easily. It's generic enough that it could work across the board that way. So that is the Galaxy Portal. Last but not least, we have my favorite of the four. And of course, this is just my personal opinion, really. But I think this one looks the coolest by far because I could see myself using this in a number of different games. And I plan to try, actually, to incorporate this one in because I think it's so cool. But this actually has a working gear mechanism that allows you to fire the dice straight through the furnace. So I'm going to show you guys kind of a close-up of the front. Again, all those gears actually work to take those two top platforms and drop them down so the dice can drop through. It's got a really cool look. It's got the gates out front. You've got two gears right here on the side where you can literally open the doors before you go ahead and roll your dice. And it kind of ensures that, actually, I shouldn't say it's kind of, it definitely ensures that the dice don't go anywhere. I've never had any spill over. I'll give you an idea of what the side looks like. There's art on all sides, all the way around. It just looks really cool. And then this lever here is what actually activates the different drop down, or the drop down bay doors, I guess you'd call them. So essentially it's just like you can use your finger to move it. It looks and just feels awesome. So basically you take your dice, drop them on top like that, and you're gonna go straight through. I don't know, there's something about it. It definitely has its geek appeal, but I love it. So for those of you that want to see that in action one more time, I'll do that one more time for you. So you can actually lay your dice on it fairly aggressively and they're not going to just drop straight through. You need to use this, and you'll notice that the gears actually do move. This is one of the coolest things about this one. It just adds to it, and I love it. So that's going to do it, guys. That's the sum up of the 4 different dice towers that I was given as a Kickstarter preview. They do have a Kickstarter coming down the line here, and I don't have the dates offhand, but I will be updating the video as I receive them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this helps you decide whether one of these works for you. As always, keep on rolling solo.